Hi, good evening, and thank you for joining us on day 261 at Good Governance Yaya. And today we have a very special guest, Peter de Almeida is here, joining us for a casual chat, let's say. And as usual, we have Chirantha, we have Chris, we have Tassie, Damaris, and Auntie Maubrey joining us. And Tassie, thank you so much for taking the reins last week. I was not able to come and do that, and you did an incredible job. So Peter, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for asking me to join your roundtable. Thank you.
No, actually, everybody has been looking forward to meeting you. You were on the list of people that we always wanted to have on board, and we finally have you here. And since you're an activist and a tech entrepreneur, I actually got ChatGPT to write your to summarize your bio.
Interesting. We can talk a little about that also later.
So basically, what it summarized your bio. So let me kind of read it and then kind of toss it over to you.
I'm very curious.
So Peter is an activist and a visionary leader, entrepreneur and advocate for innovation in the IT industry. With over 30 years of experience, he has pioneered the introduction of cutting-edge technologies and founded Enable, a thriving company with a mission to create an efficient and intelligent world. Beyond his professional achievements, Peter's diverse career spans banking, acting, directing, and activism, where he champions human rights and environmental causes. As a dynamic public speaker and chairman of Kehil Mala Productions, Peter continues to inspire audiences worldwide, pushing boundaries and embracing diversity. So how do you think it captured you?
Pretty much, yes, except the last one. It's the purpose of Kehil Mala, creating, capturing, what's the last bit that you read?
Peter can inspire
audiences worldwide. That is a purpose of the Kehil Mala company and not my purpose. It will be too ambitious for me to say, through captivating stories. That's our Kehil Mala company's purpose.
Right, and that is your production company.
Well,
you're part of it.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
It's not. I'm not put in.
But I think people got to know you initially as an actor, right? I mean, that's how you broke into the public consciousness.
Public, yes. If you look at the broader segment, broader, say, population, if I may use that word. But I think I was initially my own journey. When I was 15, I happened to meet this veteran trade unionist, socialist, in the real sense of the word, not socialism as it is being used now. Actually, humanist, a criminal lawyer, Bala Tampo. You must have heard of him. Damaris, you there. So Bala Tampo. So I was 15 when my brother was in the CMU, the Ceylon Mercantile Union. That was the union he led, independent trade union. At the height of their union, they had about 36,000 employees. They could bring the Port of Colombo to a halt. They were a very powerful union. Independent, not affiliated to any political party. So my brother happened to be a member of that union, and he took me to see Bala Tampo. I was 15, and then it changed my life because I began to. I come from a Catholic, conservative Catholic family, but even within my religion, I had looked at the radical side of the church. With the Second Vatican Council, they were talking about rights, human rights, and wealth inequality and all of that. So I had started moving even within my faith. I had started moving to a more radical, more social conscious kind of religion. And when I met Bala, and he exposed me to the whole idea of what it is, and it was not only about politics and Marxism and all of that. We learned about psychology and classics, history. So it was a complete, it broke me away from the shackles of my religious upbringing and set me off on a path to liberation and freed my mind. And from that point, I think I have been a socialist at heart, meaning for me, the greater good of society will always take precedence over my own personal interests. So I continue to actively engage with that kind of thinking in my background and consciousness.
Right. So that was your gateway into sort of like into politics, into activism, and
yes. I was also in the trade
social
union.
issues and things like that.
I was a bank union. So I was a treasurer of the bank union. That's another strong independent union, 16,000 employees. I became the treasurer when I was 22. I'm probably the youngest office bearer of a national union. When Bala became secretary of the CMU, he was 25. So I was 22. I was a banker, but I was more actively involved in trade union work. So that was my foray. But yeah, you're right. People, broader population didn't know. Then I took part in this Giraya teledrama. It was very popular. Yeah, that's right. So I still meet people. Both the parents and the children are fans. So
But
that
that
was
puts you in a
that.
unique position to kind of bridge a certain divide where you have that mass popular appeal or name recognition because you're in that in the conscience of like the broader population at large.
Yes,
And I think we saw you during the Aragalaya. We saw the IT industry stepping out. And I think you mentioned that was the first time
That's
that
right,
the industry as a whole actually came out in support of any movement at all. How do you see your role there? In terms
So
of, do you
interesting
still see
because
it-
you know there are stereotypes, no? So an actor, stereotypical actor, Sri Lankan, so they have a picture in their head, and then they find that you're an activist. So okay, some actors are also activists, but they can't get their head around the fact that I led a technology company, so that was I got into IT when I left the banking sector. I got a little disillusioned with the union and went to join my friend who had started an IT company. Actually, I helped him to start it in the sense I helped to write the proposal and so on. So that was that was about 40 years ago, I think. Yeah, almost. Yeah. And so then we started this East-West information system. So I got into IT, and that was a different journey. So yeah, it's a kind of a strange combination to be an activist and actor, but also to be a tech entrepreneur.
You were also in advertising, Q&A?
No, actually, I was, for a short time, I was also with my friend Steve De La Silva. We started a company called Rap Factory, video production.
Absolutely.
You were in the commercials,
Yes, of
man.
course. Yes, I know. I was in one commercial. Dialogue. Long time.
You were quite a star.
Why are we not surprised? No?
So then, your cousin, Steve, So so that was a little foray into advertising and video production, and again, there also we always try to be the best. So we were like probably the best video production company. New technology brought a lot of new technology, and Steve, of course, was a very fine director, and and he has an eye for details and color and setting, and he's also a stage director and an actor. So so that was an interesting little period of my life.
Right. But I think Peter gives you like a unique credibility because you've been in many spheres, and I think especially to talk to maybe the business community, the middle class, the upper middle class in this country, who are maybe slightly removed from the rest of the population, who are going through a different kind of struggle than they are. So we'll get to that in a minute.
Sure.
But to kick things off.
Yes.
Would you be able to kind of summarize the political climate right now and the state as you see it of the country, where we are right now?
So we are bankrupt. Let not anybody listening to this program today think otherwise. We are a bankrupt country. That has not changed. Despite the pronouncements of the president, nobody takes a pronouncement seriously. And we'll talk about a few examples how the Japanese got so irritated with him and how they hit back. Because they are one of the big creditors, and he made a ridiculous statement. So nobody really pays much attention to what he says. Serious-minded people. And also the governor of the central bank. Nobody takes him seriously because the central bank has discredited itself in the way it conducted itself right through the crisis because they were functioning. It's not like the central bank had closed down. They were functioning, the governors were there, all the economists were there, or the monetary board was functioning, and what? You wake up one morning and say, my coffers are empty. You'll be thrown out of your job if it's a company. But the thing is, the monetary board continued after the collapse, and now they have changed it. So the fact of the matter is, we are bankrupt. And what are the signs of bankruptcy? I always talk my lectures to, not lectures, I talk to university students, and they say it's so unfortunate that I'm talking to you today when we are in such a hopeless situation. What does it look like? First thing, Chaminder, we have not repaid our debt. Not 1 cent of our foreign debt have we repaid.
No. In fact, I think we've added 20% more to that.
We have added
debt.
more. I have various numbers, but I spoke to an economist, Danushka, just on my way here. 40 billion foreign debt, now gone up to 53 billion. So So we have not even started serious negotiations. In fact, I said this very early when I was in the Artists of the People's Movement and IT Professionals for the People, two good groups. We'll talk about that, the dynamics of movement creation and all of that, and why it works, sometimes it doesn't work. And you guys are very familiar with this. You all led a kind of a movement. But coming back to so I tell these students, it's so unfortunate that you are coming to university system in a bankrupt. What does bankruptcy mean? It simply means that you have no money to run your day-to-day affairs. You're struggling to keep the day-to-day affairs going. Worse is that you have absolutely no chance of investing in the future. So, if you can't barely keep this going and you can't invest in your future, just think of a company scenario. There's no hope of you being sustainable. And a future that is being disrupted by technology, which we can't even get our head around. If you have time, we can talk about artificial intelligence and what it's doing to education and all the unemployment and so on. But we have no money to spend. Now the government says, I'm going to introduce a subject, AI, next year. Now this is the kind of utter nonsense they'll come up with. Like home science or something like that. AI, who's going to teach?
Where's the expertise?
Where's the expertise?
We have a teacher. The teacher running, he will teach.
So, he can hardly keep his pants held together. So, that's a different matter. But, this is a kind of, hogwash. So, no money to invest in the future. Then, our people are leaving. Is it correct? 1 million have left? A million. Now, I go to university, 30% of the academic staff have gone. Doctors, I don't know whether Kanchana was able to get some information. There is a friend of hers who is an anesthetist at the pediatric, at the Lady Ridgeway. I think there were 6, there are only 3. So they are working round the clock. And God forbid, man, they can make a mistake. Under pressure, it's unfair. So unfair. So 3. There were 12 pediatric cardio surgeons or pediatricians, pediatric cardio specialists. 12. Only 6. We have 6 million children. 6 million children. Only 12 or 6 now. So, if the best of your people are going, who is going to educate our younger generation? The best of the lecturers are gone, the best of the doctors are gone, the best of the experts are gone. You need people with experience to build the next generation. And we'll need them if you're going to come out of a crisis. You need people. We don't have that. We don't have that. That's gone. Then, assets. Thirdly, you must have good assets to rebuild. We're selling our assets off now at fire sale prices. And that's exactly what Professor Ulrich, who was in a famous guy, he spoke about the Sri Lanka crisis. He said, this is exactly where they want you to be. The creditors want us to be in this position because they don't want our money, he says. And so does Yanis Varoufakis, the former Greek finance minister who knows very well because he's gone through can talk a little about it. He says they don't want your money, they want your assets. Do you think India came and gave us 4.5 billion because they loved us? I mean, India is facing abject poverty. Income inequality in India is staggering. So India comes and gives 4.5 billion. My God, Modi, this government, that government. Now they are coming calling. They want to give Adani our renewable energy, which is a key asset that we must own, with no competitive bidding. Apparently, he sells it to the Indian government at 22. Indian government buys from him at 22 cents, US cents. We are buying supposedly at 50 cents, US cents. Double. How come? Of course, somebody can economies of scale and all that, but I'm saying no competitive bidding. And this Harin Fernando shamelessly, proudly says 3 of our airports are going to be managed by India. I would, if I have to actually say it, I'll hide under the table, cover myself, and just my voice will say it. He comes, smiles. I know him. Not a bad man. Not a bad guy. But these are the people in power. Shamelessly. We can't run our airports. This country. This is what bankruptcy looked like. Just a little more. Take our health sector. Complete collapse. Doctors going is one thing. Medicine shortage. I go to the nephrology unit, a cousin of mine is about to go through dialysis. I say those doctors are breaking their backs. And nephrology, kidney means your whole blood is, all your organs start to fail. They come and take medicine packets like this. And they're running out of cash. Very soon they won't be able to fill their prescription. No drugs, no equipment. So how can you
Broken equipment not being
broken, no drugs, buy from outside, surgeries are postponed. So, help. And don't forget, Sri Lanka is a country that's facing a dangerous escalation in diabetes. So, we are going to have a huge problem. No dialysis machines, no nurses. He said the trained nurses who dialysis, a lot of them have gone.
Peter, the problem is the people who you're speaking about. I mean, the people who would be this would affect. They don't have a voice to speak out.
That is my
and
point.
And the people who have a voice
Yeah.
to speak out don't care because they don't go to government hospitals. They don't go to government schools. Right?
But there is an increase now. People are not able to afford the private
that is
sector.
true. That is true.
They're all moving. So the government load is increasing. I myself will have to go to a government hospital. If I have cancer or something, I can't afford. I'll have to go. So more and more people now, even my cousin, normal circumstances, he would have gone, but he can't afford it. So so can you imagine the burden? Then education. We were talking to some principals of Colombo schools in 2 batches. We spoke to them about changing the education system to face the future. I mean, 2038 children entering school today will come out in 20. What will the world look like? You think this memorizing and answering papers is going to cut it? It's not going to cut it. They need creativity, problem solving, those kinds of 21st century learning. So we shared some thoughts with them. They said, very good, we completely agree. Our biggest problem is to get children to come to school today. Now, Nahil Vijayasuriya, I know him because he was owner of East West Information System, the founding company that my friends founded, and I worked with him. Now, he's providing meals to a school in Kotehena. This is not some rural school. 600 children. He said after he started providing them with that one meal, attendance has increased. And sadly, and I like the governor of the central bank to make note of this, most children eat half the lunch, take the other half home. That because they have some sibling, a mother, and we have relatives. And the boy will always say, I want to take something from my mother. And this governor can sit there in his damn glass house and dare to say, you have stabilized the economy.
Absolutely. We see it sometimes.
Not only that, increase the salary.
Will. Now that you brought it, we'll come to that. I mean, can you imagine? Today I was listening, but actually, in a purely economic sense, because there was 70% inflation and real wages fell by 70%, you need 70% increase, right? That's a different matter. But they have paid themselves, and interestingly, Chiranta, today the Prime Minister was reading, shockingly, the lowest segments of the central bank got the lowest percentage increase. The highest paid got, now in my company when we were running Enable, we always give the lowest paid employee, we get a pool, a pot of money for everyone. My parent company said, here is X amount, distribute. We always give the higher percentage to the lower paid because you are getting a percentage of a low salary. So cost of living is so we gave 20-30%. We took 10%. I always got the lowest 8%. Even when all the others got. The damn central bank, the most senior officers, he read the last person, not a name, designation. In single, I was having my shower coming here. 76%. The lowest has got 20-odd%. So the highest salary gets the highest percentage. I mean, can you?
I mean, the guys at the lower end are the ones who are most disproportionately affected by the crisis. So obviously they need to
There's another
looked after
stat
first.
which I heard that the lowest, after this increase, the person who earns the lowest salary at the central bank earns more than a doctor.
Definitely teacher.
Is this correct?
See, my point is, I have no grouse against someone getting 188,000 because today, according to that anchor, I forget the name of the company, some global index, they say in Sri Lanka for a family of two children, you need about 78,000.
Oh,
2,500 a week. 2,000. Yeah. So 78. So that's their study, 78,000. Now, or 80,000, I can't remember. Now, I don't mind if somebody gets a, but to your point, that's it. Teachers, man, what a pittance. What a pittance. And as a result, they are private tuition, all that, but still some of them really give up their best, So, I mean, like somebody was arguing, now the central bank guys go through the university system, the professors and teachers, they have to teach them. So what about them? Central bank employees are important, but I don't think they're any more important than a teacher, or for a matter, a government doctor, or for that matter, a farmer, or a fisherman.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like self-dealing. It's absolutely
But
self-dealing.
we saw this differentiation some time ago, no, Chamin, when the DDR was happening, they were paying themselves 25% from the EPF, while the rest, the
The
EPF
central bank
was-
seems to act as
yeah, but
a...
the
No,
EPF
the
was
central
managing-
bank,
They're
I
only
mean,
getting 9%, right?
in
Everybody
fact,
else?
Harvard Nicholas was talking about this act that they brought into, and that takes away the independence of central bank. I mean, our central bank has never been an independent. It's a false flag, and he himself admitted it. I mean,
I
great
think it
guy.
was probably worse under Cabral.
Yes, I mean, what
but
independence?
it has never been truly
It's not
independent.
independent at all. And now this man is just a voice for the governor, and I'm telling you one last thing on the central bank. I'm telling you with responsibility, our banks control the central bank. And when I put it to a foreign CEO of a foreign company, I said, because I got involved with the central bank, we tried to form an open banking framework where other people, it'll disrupt banking if you adopt this open banking framework. Other players, small software players can come in, because I can tell my bank, I'm giving you permission to share my information to all my banks with a company, with a software company that's consolidating loan information and offer you the best possible deal and all that. So we sat on that committee headed by a friend of mine, a lady, a great job. And we are the only committee that actually finished on time with the report. The banks, I'm sure, went in, nothing came out of it. So I told this to the CEO of a foreign bank. I said, it's a fact that you control the bank, the central bank. He said, you are not wrong. Take the interest rate spread. That's why the banks have made super profits. Yesterday I heard Bank of Ceylon, 40 billion. How can a financial institution make such enormous profits when the entire country is fallen? Right. This is the point of the IMF and the World Bank and all that.
The economy is fallen.
CEB, Petroleum, they just reduced the tariffs by like a token amount, but we're still paying the highest in South Asia. But
Sorry, I just want to say about this now. If the banking sector is behaving like that, and the central bank is, is also behaving like what it is now, I think we are the gap between the poorest of majority are poor and minority is rich. That gap is going to widen and widen.
Absolutely, Chirag. Our income inequality anyway globally under this so-called great capitalist system that we have, income inequality has grown massively. In fact, I had a book which I didn't bring here, Thomas Piketty, economist, who wrote this book on inequality. And he, unlike other economists, had 100 years of data, all digitally available. So he clearly says income inequality is growing, and it is bad for the capitalist system. 3 people own more wealth than 160 million people in the United States. 3 people.
for the
That's income.
capitalist system to exist,
Yeah.
you need consumers.
That's right.
People who
So
can
to your
afford to
point,
spend.
income inequality is very, and the banks are the biggest problem that the central bank does not intervene is that at a time like this, the banks can't have such a big spread. That is the difference in lending, borrowing rate and the lending rate. Most countries, it's 1-2%. Our bank, during the crisis, I got a shock. I had a deposit, even more. I had a deposit at a foreign bank, they were paying me 5%. I thought, okay, now other banks were paying more. I said, great. Now, generally, when you borrow against that, they'll give 2%. Am I correct? 2.5%. When you're a good customer, even 1.5%. So I thought I can borrow now at 7%. Not a lot of money, million rupees maybe. And I thought I can then now put it in the bank at 20%. You know what it is? Sorry, Peter. 17% to lend to me against my own.
Against your own
deposit. No, but I said this is usury. This is not banking. This is usury. So now the central bank can intervene and say, now we need to rebuild the country. You cannot have these spreads. Everybody takes a cut in there, but they are minting it. financial institutions, they have grown their profits by 1,000% because they had held these government bonds, which they didn't touch. And now the bond rates are 30%, interest rates have fallen, they'll get massive capital gains, no touching them. So you see, finance, that's, yeah.
Sorry, do you feel like this, the Parat execution law that they're bringing in, is that another case of self-dealing? I mean, because we know that there are massive defaulters at these banks, massive defaulters. Some of them are like even the chairman of the UNP, the treasurer of the UNP himself owes how much?
2.6 billion to People's Bank. Dayagamage will say it's public information. To 2.6 billion to People's Bank, almost $1 billion to Bank of Ceylon. And he's a treasurer of the UNP, who's a chairman of the BOC, Ronald Silva or Pereira, President's Council, who was part of the working committee of the UNP till very recently. I think very recently he resigned for the only purpose that none of us really realized that he was part of the UNP working committee. What happened was he was appointed as into the steering committee of Ranil Wickremesinghe's presidential campaign. That's when activists realized. So we went to town. Then he finally had some semblance of some good. I think he was forced to, because we were saying, as a President's Council, doesn't he realize that what he's doing is wrong? How can a person on the working committee of the UNP, he has been on the working committee for some time, right? How can he? What are the chances of him ensuring that the treasurer of the UNP will pay back the bank loan?
It stinks of conflict of interest. It stinks of self-dealing. This is the whole crony system that we as a group have been speaking against, Peter. So just want to bring it back to something else which you were touching on earlier, which is this notion of stability that has been pushed very, very hard by certain sections within the government, from the president and so on. The way we see it, there's a cost to that to a vast majority of people, including a certain amount of sort of backsliding democracy and things like that. We can see our civic space shrinking. Now even there was an IUSF convener who was arrested simply for protesting about just fairly standard things that people protest about. I mean, about the bad laws, the plethora of bad laws and so on. How do you see this whole question of stability? Do we have stability right now?
No, like I said, clearly there is absolutely no stability economically. I think we are, actually, just before we get to that, and remind me of your point, you see the debt, let's talk about it. We have not started even negotiations on the debt. Because like Lee Buchheit, who is a famous debt negotiator, he's not a Marxist, he's a capitalist debt restructuring. He said, your problem is you have the private bondholders, the private creditors, you have the Paris Club, largely Japan, you are bilateral with India and China. World Bank, Asian Development Bank, forget about it, very low interest, it's in the never. Now he says the biggest problem is they don't come to the same table. Now the IMF, what do they do when they come to do their debt sustainability study? They do only two things. One is they tell you by how much you need to cut your debt from all your creditors. We don't know what that amount is. They would have given them a target amount, 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%, can be as high as 70%. Then the second thing is what the IMF comes, and that's there. It's dirty business, These guys, even with all due respect, Harsha, a nice man, the same liberal economists, no? They have no idea. He says, go to the IMF, we should have gone earlier. The IMF is a disaster, a recipe for disaster. So they came in, what did they do? Then they put the other side, on the other side of the balance sheet, cut expenses, increase price of petrol, double the VAT, place the entire burden of the tax, of the crisis on the people. That's what happened. That's what they did in Greece. That's what Yanis Varoufakis fought against. So the question is, what should we have done? That's why Lee Buchheit says, you go and have tough negotiations with the creditors. So before I come to that, we have not even brought the creditors to the same table. And there's a thing called equality of creditors. Each one wants to be treated equally, because one doesn't want to give a 20% haircut than the other. China straight away said, we are no haircuts, end of story. End of story. So they say, fine. If China is not, we are not. Then coming back to the president and his statements, how people think that he's a great Vedda, he's a great guy, international. I'll give a simple example. When the minister was found of asking a bribe from Taisei, The Japanese ambassador came out and said he asked for a bribe. Because he was under pressure, Gotabaya asked him to step aside. The current president comes in, appoints a committee, bogus committee, and he is not guilty. What have you done? Effectively, you have told the representative of the Japanese government, you lied. Now, you know the Japanese culture, they are all bloody noble and this and that. If you cross path, they'll commit harakiri and all that. So they don't make a big fuss. No? They said, all right, you have shamed us. You have called, you have said that we are lying, and we'll wait our turn. Now they know debt negotiation is coming. So they pulled out, first thing, all the Japanese fund out of the country. Then the president in parliament comes and says last year, the Japanese have agreed to hold a conference of all the creditors. You remember I was telling you all the creditors will come to a table. The Japanese have said they'll bring the creditors. Within 2 hours, the Japanese government issued a statement and said, there's no such arrangement. And they added another phrase, that's his wishful thinking. Now, this is this man that you're now holding out. I say he's a great guy, he's a statesman. I mean, it's a joke.
He's a liar.
Also. Because he lied in parliament. And they called him out. So, Lee Buchheit says, go and have tough negotiation. He says it happens every day in New York, in Wall Street. There are companies who are in debt, come to the bank and say, we can't pay. Either you give a haircut or not. So, one country that came out of this mess was Iceland. Because they asked recently, when Varoufakis is on his talk on Sri Lanka, any country, he said Iceland. Germany after the Second World War, because they wrote off all their debts, and now the damn Germans are telling debt is a debt is a debt, after having taken a debt, full complete haircut. Iceland came out, how? They were declared bankrupt. The very strong government came to power, democratic government elected. They imprisoned the bankers. Because the bankers are ready to pay ball. Put the buggers in prison, right? And they told them, let's talk. You know how much the haircut was? 70%. They were out of bankruptcy within 1 year. Do we have that kind of government?
No, of course not. I mean, just before we declared bankruptcy, we paid some,
That's right.
500 million or something. We were about to run out of money, and we paid our...
Yeah, now if Ranil or anybody else who came in, smart person, he would have kept the Aragalaya going. You be on the streets, there's leverage, Roman. I go to the credit, my people are in the streets. Do you want to talk? You suppress them and break them up and all that, and you say, let's talk. I will take whatever you give me. But if you have a government of the people on the street saying no, then with that leverage you go and have negotiate. That's not what has happened. Now we are completely at their mercy. And why did the IMF give us a tranche? For what? To save our poor.
No.
To provide stability so that the creditors can be repaid. Our guys don't get it, man.
Access to international markets again, which we can borrowing again.
Yeah, mainly to pay the banks. Pay the banks. That's for the IMF. I mean,
Peter, sorry, can I just, excuse me for a second? Yeah. No, I just want to mention, in the middle of these sessions that we do, our internet, our connectivity to this entire area just goes dark. So that has happened right now. I can't even connect to the TV. Like everything goes dark. This happens whenever we bring a guest, and then when we have, we don't know why this happens, because this is a functioning place and it never happens. But whenever we have a guest and whenever we start talking about critical issues, we just completely go dark. But CK records all of this, and we will upload it later to YouTube. But right now our stream is dead, right? Is it back on again? But we don't need to stop because it's all recorded anyway. And what happens is sometimes the live feed, only the audio is there. The video gets a little, but it's there. It's going. So if people are watching, we apologize if there are interruptions. But we're going to keep going anyway because I think we. And anyway, we'll upload it to YouTube once this is all done. Yeah.
So I just want to about this stability. I think we need to give the people what stability is. We need to tell the people what stability is, because people believe stability is not having queues and that is stability. So people need to, the people like us, you, everybody, we need to get together and make a very strong voice and say stability is, if you look at your month on month inflation, and if it is 0 or less, that means minus or 0, then we are on stability, because now we have controlled our inflation. If it is plus 0.1, that means there is no stability. The economy is continuing to slide, the cost of living is continuing to go up. So this is the basic thing that people don't understand, is this.
No, but the people who are facing it understand it, Chiranta. It is the, the affluent, the people who are well-to-do. They are the ones who really spout it. But the vast majority of people, now I worked in a trade, I worked in the CMU, went back and worked, and I went for salary negotiations. I was horrified, Machan, to find that there are these big companies that publish annual reports, and one time, I'd be like to name and shame them. Their starting basic is 20,000.
Sorry?
20,000 starting basic. Now, in January of 2022, before it collapsed, that was 20,000. After inflation of 70%, actually they say inflation 130. Steve Hanker, economist on Sri Lanka, he said it's actually 130 if you take food inflation and all that. But let's take the central bank 70%. So if you take a salary of 20,000, you work out the real wage, which is nominal wage, into nominal wage inflation minus these two numbers, you get. That 20,000 is worth only 6,000 rupees today. Our workers don't get it. They feel it, so they are living paycheck to paycheck. There was a 19-year service woman, single mother, 2 children. Let's talk about real people, not just the central bank governors, tall stories about stability, 19 years, Shaminda, she has worked in this company, private company. 2 children, husband abandoned them. If she gets a total salary of 59,000, if she comes to work, she can only take 2 days leave. If she takes more than 2 days, if the child falls ill, she loses her attendance bonus. If she doesn't get her attendance bonus, she doesn't get a productivity bonus. So if she fulfills all of this, she gets 59,000 bucks. And we actually worked out. Food, rent, gas also, the mother was sharing, we didn't take gas. Telephone bill, children's transport, and basic food. Not even when you have to go for Aurudu and all these things. Every month, she's minus 9,950 rupees. So I asked her, how do you survive? I take an advance for my next month's salary. This is, Chiranta, this is, our livelihoods have been devastated. So they know this. So there's no point trying to convince people who are, well-to-do, and, it's a theoretical exercise.
No,
We are more concerned about how
I
to...
think we need to shut these people who are talking about stability, to shut their mouth. We must contest them and say... challenge them to an open debate, and tell me how is stability when the inflation is still at month on month and the score is high.
And people's lives have been devastated. Like you said, they are so badly devastated that even a 1% inflation is nothing but you're continuing to rise. It's the speed at which the ink, right? It's not, so if it's 1, you're still increasing.
Yeah, exactly.
So you are going to get worse and worse and worse and worse, having your livelihood devastated already.
And at least the people who are earning, they should be their salaries. There should be a formula for their salaries to meet the inflation. Those are the things that need to be, the government needs to do for the private sector as well as the state.
In a country where of 22 million people, where 1 million have left and 7 million fallen into poverty.
1 million
electrical disconnections and so on. Even the very thought of sort of talking about stability to those people who are struggling under the crushing weight of it's kind of, you're almost discounting that their lives matter. This battle, you're saying we have to contest it. We do it every day in our group chats, on social media, with people, our friends, our family. Stability isn't paying any price for a gallon of gas or whatever, right? It's, inflation has come down. I think it's to single digits now, but the cost of living hasn't come down. The food prices, cost of a basket of goods haven't come down. So this is something that we, on a daily basis, we're on certain groups where, certain people are pushing this, why are you speaking up? Because you're not.
Also,
how does it affect you?
Let's not forget that they've brought consumption down by increasing the price by almost triple. I mean, fuel from 150 to what is 350 now, almost double. Electricity, yeah. So
Today, the president said that the reserves have gone to 3 billion, right? So that is by depressing demand.
Also, hold on.
They're not paying.
Exactly, you're not paying debt. You're not paying so, I mean, come on. If you get a salary.
But are you doing with the money?
Yeah.
Yeah, that the full picture is never quite
So,
presented
if
to you. They
it's a
give you little
simple
tidbit
arithmetic
here and
no.
there.
going once a
I
month
have
abroad. Traveling once a month abroad. You asked what are you doing with the money?
Yeah. No, not only educated. They are okay. Because they have put money in treasury bills and so they are all right. They are okay. So they are now, happy to, justify why they are not committed to staying the course. So if you're not paying your debt, of course you will have money to spend, no? Exactly. But you are not servicing your debt. Exactly. So you will have 3 billion. That's nothing.
There's a question that we are asked by these people who support. I'm going to ask you. I'd like to hear your answer. Who else but Ranil?
I was going to ask the same question.
Perfect.
My thoughts.
No, just like to hear your answer. We know.
I might as well say anyone but. Why should I not say that? What is this? Because if you're asking them, so what has he achieved? So if you answer that question, you can say, so what has he done effectively? Yeah. And to your question, now we come to that point. Now, they know this is going to be a very difficult situation, then people will rise. There will be agitation. Trade unions, others, universities, all that. That's why the laws are important. The anti-terrorism bill, single labor law, so that your labor force is completely subservient to the employers. Online serf deal. Where they want to bring, they say there are so many labor laws, we want to consolidate. They are holding back because the unions have protested. And they want to bring a law which makes it very easy to hire and fire. Simple as that. The protection of the Termination of Employment Act is to be removed. Labor should be, that Employment Act is there because they understand the power difference between the employer.
Fought and got it.
Yes. So you see, so that's why it's now necessary to have a repressive laws that will now prevent. Because this, I don't think we are going to come out of this crisis for another years. Yeah. That was just mentioned. She is reminding me of, because you said 1 million disconnections. Yeah. So
anyway, I saw President talking about that we are going to start repayment of loans by 2027. And then that itself that means that he has not done, what has he done? He has done nothing. I mean, if you are coming to the parliament to say that we are going to start paying loans by 2027, you better go home because then by that.
No, but like the Japanese said, that could be wishful thinking.
And then
where is the data to support?
Remember, Mangala Samaraveera was very stern when he was saying that we had reserves of about $8 billion US. That is the amount of reserves that was given to the Rajapaksas when they took over this country, about 7-point-something billion US, which they have. And now, Ranil, if somebody is going to clap for 3 billion or 4 billion US reserves.
When you're not servicing your foreign debt, yeah, that makes the same.
Peter, you touched on the airline assets and so on. I just wanted to, I put this stat up because, and you mentioned about Harin mentioning the airports. Now, Sri Lankan Airlines has a monopoly on ground handling and catering. It's a monopoly. Under Emirates management, which was last in 2008, it ended the year 4.4 billion plus profit. The following year, after renationalization, we made a 9 billion loss. So that's a swing of 13 billion in the opposite direction with a monopoly on catering and ground handling. So, I mean, the way I see it, that right there is the cost of corruption to this country. Now, assets like this, it's been demonstrated it can be run profitably, right? So, what do you feel?
So my point is, a country does not have to own an airline. Right. So I don't think that's a strategic asset. Yeah. So I'm okay with, see, there will be always partnerships with a private entity, but at very well negotiated terms. where you gain, you can do oil exploration as a joint venture because we don't have the technology, but you negotiate. But now what's happening, you're selling it at fire sale price. Our assets are there to be leveraged. We can't get value out of our assets without foreign investment, but that can be negotiated in the best interest of the country, firstly. Also, there's the upside for them. That happens all over the world, but not a wholesale sale of critical assets. Telecom.
No, Chaminda, I think, Peter, what Chaminda is trying to say was this is an asset that was giving profit.
Yes. No, somebody will use this argument to say government shouldn't own, private sector owned it, there was profits. You see, we can flip the other way. You can flip the other way. But I'm saying a corrupt government will run their assets. Now, you saw how they went on joyrides. I mean, can you imagine the chairman diverting a flight from Malaysia to Singapore when you have no landing rights for that flight? You have no, bridge. I mean, to pick him up.
Up to the chairman. That's right.
This thought came up to
So,
me
I mean, so-
when I saw, now since you're in the business sector, I'm going to ask you something. This the first thought that I am also in the business sector, in a small way. This thought came up to me when I was watching Nimal Siripala explaining about the rats in the plane. Of course, these all came just 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the sale. Okay, all these up till that time, it was a national pride, all this type of thing. Anyway, so sitting next to him was the chairman of Sri Lankan Airlines, businessman, private sector, Ashok Patiraki. The first thought that came to my mind as a small businessman, Ashok, we all know, it's common knowledge that his businesses, the SoftLogic businesses are highly geared, right? And they're poorly managed. They're in a very bad shape. Why would anyone make such a businessman chairman of an already loss-making airline? I mean, some time ago during Chandrika's time, there was Harry Jayawardena. Harry Jayawardena runs Ceylon Milk Foods, distilleries company, Aitken's Paints. These were all making profit, and he is a proven businessman, entrepreneur. But sitting listening to Nimal Siripala saying, this, we can't run this profitably, and Ashok Patiraki nodding his head, then talking about rats, I was thinking, what is that guy? I mean, why is he even there? He can't run his own companies. Why has he been given the responsibility of running a national airline, which clearly needed someone who has experience? I mean, what was the qualification? National airline is running at a loss. His own companies are running at a loss. Oh, maybe he might be a good chairman. Is that it? Is that what the thinking? So, what do you think?
I don't want to. Yes, you're making a point, and I don't have enough information. But your logic is very sound. So, I mean, that's the point, isn't it? I mean, we are not having the right people leveraging our assets. I mean, every chairman is appointed is a political appointee. That's what has happened. Okay, your chart says it all. I mean, I say you can't take telecom. Sri Lanka, they want to privatize it. Telecom infrastructure must be run as an important infrastructure, particularly with AI and all that. Who is going to provide connectivity to rural schools? Private sector company. But now, question is, who is running this? An important asset now. Now, SLT has combined with Mobitel. They can give a run for the money to Dialog because they have got very good infrastructure already laid on underground. So, that's the point, you see. These governments they appoint people largely to fatten themselves and pass off some of that largesse to them. This is nothing to do with government. Good governments can run. Singapore government runs a lot of entities. So it's nothing to do with government. And they'll always make, see, when you run, the government runs it. Now anyway, CEB has now made a profit of 60 billion. There is no private sector there. But that is purely because of wholesale bloody robbery. I mean, if you make 1 million people who disconnect, 1 million people in the dark, and you still make money, there's something wrong, no?
Well, I mean, they increase the tariffs. That
Yeah.
means the people already paid for that.
That's right.
Whatever
That's
discount
right.
you get.
That's right.
I mean,
And where will those monies go?
Of a discount.
Yeah, where will the money go? Good question to ask is, where is this money going? Most of it is going to pay a significant portion of all these guys who are creaming at the top holding government bonds. You have to pay them 30% for treasury bills and bonds. You have to pay interest. Who? This is the money That's good. This is not coming to, that is pure rentier economy, just money, finance. That is not money that's invested to create jobs and so on. They are creating it at the top. This is the problem.
Peter, they have held up certain institutions as examples of sort of inefficient, how a state runs these institutions inefficiently, and created the mindset in the people that state-owned enterprises are largely bad, that they need to be privatized. And now we see that everything needs to be privatized. There seems to be, like you said, this fire sale kind of mentality. I think they understand that there's an election coming. I mean, and then also they're floating this abolishing the executive presidency. But if you know the process that is required, it will never happen before the next election. I feel they can see that there is a terminal point for whatever that happens, because there is a swing in the electorate more to the left right now. So, exactly. So how do you view this,
Okay, so
this entire
two
state
questions.
thing?
Two questions. The first one is running state-owned enterprise profitably. Now, take government railway. It was always state-owned. Look at that gentleman, I forget his name, Rampal.
Yeah.
He was a general manager.
Long time ago.
I was told that SWR Bandaranaike took a train carriage and went on some election campaign or something. He sent him a bill and said, that is your election campaign, I can't do anything about Prime Minister. I am not, you pay this government railway, you take a bloody carriage or whatever, you pay for it. That's how you run. But if you have a government that uses the state enterprises as a means to fatten themselves, then it will run inefficient. Of course, it will run inefficiently. So it's just float these things, because they won't fight corruption and all that. But say you take it at face value and say, now let's privatize it. It's mad. The second question, now the swing. Now it's a good time to ask ourselves, so what's the way out? Now people are getting ready for election. Now, between the SLPP and the SLFP and all that, you can clearly see that they're all the same economically, including the Sajjaba. They were in power. By this Iran and what's his other gentleman's name? Harsha. They were all there. They can't say the president was someone else and all that. That's all nonsense. They were there. During that time, the number of indexes we fell, I didn't bring that details. In fact, I asked Harsha at Economic Summit that I moderated, and he was very embarrassed, and he tried to attack me also. I know him personally, nice man, very nice person. I talked to him, very nice person. But the economic policies are just the same. Just recently, George Galloway won the election at Rochdale, and he's going to give Labour and Conservatives a fight. He says Labour and Conservatives are two cheeks of the same backside. I say the same thing about the SLPP and Sajjaba. They are two cheeks of the same backside. They follow the same economic policies. Nothing will be different. Now, and you can see how quickly the SLPP became adopted, the UNP leader, a failed leader, as they are. And today, that man sits next to him, his classmate, and who shouted, hora, hora, Bankura, and they're laughing, and so forget about it. So I don't see any change, particularly to address a crisis like this. A difficult situation where you need a very strong government with backing of the people. You have to create a movement and go. Who is going to provide that? Now there is a big swing towards the NPP. I mean, I can understand that people are desperate for an alternative. But on what basis are you going to make this choice? By all the means, get rid of these fellows. Even if it means vote for the NPP and get rid of them, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But don't have any illusions. Because I have not seen now, and for the NPP Economic Summit, I went there, full house. You know how our business sector is, when they see the swing, these are people who will never be seen stepping into the NPP rally. I say Marxwadi and all that. Firstly, gentlemen and ladies, the NPP is not Marxist. Not Marxist. There's no Marxist ideology. So some people are very pleased that the Marxism is bad. No, I'm talking from a positive point of view. Is there an alternate Marxist ideology, economic ideology? That's not the. They are not socialist. When did they last use the word socialism in their talks? They are not socialist, as in the social good and a socialist economy and all that it entails. They are not that. They are another parliamentary democratic, so-called liberal democratic party. What is their foundation? Now I went for the economic summit. Full house, all the business leaders, all that. Anurag also came. Not a word on debt. I have the notes in this very book. I always take notes. Not now, how can you have an economic summit when you don't address the debt problem?
No one asked questions.
No one. I wanted to show, generally I shoot off my questions. First question I shoot off in this, I felt bad. I honestly thought, let me not embarrass them.
Where was
So
this economic summit?
At the Galadari, a year ago. Full house, they had to order more tea and coffee and all that. So I thought, now Chaturanga, man, nice guy. His talk could have been given by Ranil. Widen, use knowledge economy. Slides, and in fact, I made a note of it. I must find that it will be somewhere in my notes.
Basically buzzwords.
Buzzwords, man, nice guys. And who is in the Economic Council? All academics.
All?
Academics. These professors that were not a man who has ever stepped on a paddy field, not a fellow who has got into a fishing boat, not a guy who has plucked tea. I'm saying if it is a socialist government, you will have people who are involved in the economy. You will hear the voice of the farmers. You will hear the voice of the fishermen. That's a real socialist government where you are hearing the people who are affected. They form policy. Same with education. All nice people, but that's not how you're going to cut it. Yeah. So now talking about socialist alternatives, in the UK, when Jeremy Corbyn was elected Labour leader, he and John McDonnell put out a manifesto. Every item was costed for. They said we are going to create a $1 billion or several $billion fund for technology. And they said how we are going to fund it. So if you are going to form the next government, you must have not a manifesto like Saubhagya Anagatak. No. A manifesto that says I am going to spend X on education, X on health, X on future technology, X amount on this thing. And exactly.
And we need to have a law to see that they held accountable.
That will come to. First and foremost, an alternate approach, particularly now. Supposing they come to power, they'll have the same governor of the central bank. They have all the government bureaucrats. They'll have the finance ministry bureaucrats. Who is going to run the country? On what foundation? That's not known. So what will happen is people will vote in large numbers, and I'll be very happy if this lot is decimated at the polls. No, I make no bones about it. The SLPP, SLFP or UNP, to some extent even some. But what will happen is, if you do not have a strong people's movement behind you on very solid costed items, this will be my tax rate. This will be my capital gains tax. I am going to introduce capital gains because all you guys are minting money on capital gains and you're sitting there and collecting money. You're not investing it in growth. That's a separate economic discussion we can have. I'm going to have capital gains. I'm going to have wealth tax. I'm going to tax the richest at 60%. So whatever. And this is how we do it. Instead, what will happen is they'll come. Dissolution will settle in very quickly and the right wing will be back in power.
Yeah.
Like
Sadly,
what happened in the Philippines.
We have this pendulum effect in politics in this
now-
part of the world, right? It goes left and it goes right. Like nothing settles in the...
So,
that is a concern now, because NPP, now this is the problem. NPP says they are going to enforce the law against the corrupted and everything. But the thing is, we have a police IGP who is a political pawn. We have a police that is politically divided. I mean, there are some are UNP, some are Sajabe, some are NPP. I mean, it's all a mess. And the police officers, their decisions are politicized. I mean, they will look at one rally and they will slam water to that rally. If you have another political party coming, they will just, go and talk to the person. It's likewise, I mean, it's politicized. The police is politicized. So even if the MPP comes, this is what happened to the Jahapalana government.
they have to deal with the same government bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And they control the show. You're absolutely right. Central bank, they're not going to throw all the governor and the deputy governor out. So you see, my point is, so what is the alternative? That's where we come to the crux of the discussion. We end on that note. You see, what the Aragalaya taught us was about movements. You know, the power of the people. We witnessed it for the first time. I'm glad I saw it in my lifetime. You know, where we saw people come now. In fact, the MPP soon after that said, what you started, we will finish. I mean, that is arrogance. But you start, no, they are not building a mass movement. Real socialists, you know, organized that have changed the economy, changed the world. They have a movement. This is a parliamentary political party. All these women come, they'll clap, you know, and they'll make speeches. Our actresses also go. They have no understanding except a few, one or two, who are gone there, who question them. I must say. But others just go there, they clap, they sing songs. So what? So what? But if you're building a movement in your villages, say you have to look after Nigambo, what are the effective? That's a true revolutionary movement. Learn from the Aragalaya. Mobilize the people in your own electorates, your own issues, your local issues. If you've got, now take out the farming, take the Indian boats that are coming and taking. I met these fishermen, they say we go in small boats, very sustainable fishing. These huge trawlers, they say they come this size, we can't see them. Deep sea, deep, heavy net trawling. They take everything away. And India, large parts of India, the fish is gone. So they come here. Now we can get that fishing community, if the NPP can organize and mobilize them. Along the coastal area, single the Muslim Tamils, and they say, we are against this. Now they went to India. So quickly the Indian government got at them. Now you can't come out and criticize the Indian government. Now, whatever it is, man, Anura has gone and sat with Jay Shankar. He's a global. It takes a lot to go there and say, you may be Jay Shankar, but I am for the people of Sri Lanka. We don't know what they discuss. There was no communique. So you see how quickly they can see that there could be a future NPP, at least a significant majority or parliament or balance of power might be in their hands. So are you going to call them out? With what power? With your seats, but not with a real movement of people. That's why I don't have much hope for our future, and we will be in this economic mess for at least 30 years.
But Peter, how can, has anybody started what you're saying? Is there any movement started in a small way?
That is the sad news, and I'll give 3 examples of what I was involved in the Artists of the People's Movement. They were very active. We had a purpose. We had objectives. Our 3 objectives were debt, sovereignty number 1, not the so-called bourgeoisie. What does sovereignty mean? Because we learned that in Daragade, when the people took sovereignty in their own hands and they drove away a president not through the constitutional. So sovereignty. Second was debt. Third was protecting our assets. These are. So the IT professionals for the people also came. Remember you said, I never expected the CEO of a top American company to sit on the barricade. He sat there, American CEO, local CEO, but American company. So we tried. We said, my God, now these guys are. But the moment things started getting a little better,
people were hesitated. But
these are guys who wanted to have press conferences every day. Press I said, make a soda bottle muskala. Long term, we are in for the long haul. That's why we had a purpose. We had to inspire people with our actions so that they can make decisions affecting them on their own. That was our purpose as the artists. But to your point, tried it, failed. I went to the trade union, the CMU. Within 5 months, I had 40 meetings at the factory level. That's when I found out. But the general secretary of the CMU turned out to be having backdoor dealings with the companies, with the Employees Federation. So he's telling me, if you send this letter, I called them out, the Employees Federation. He said, my God, don't do that, they'll be in an embarrassing situation. So, to answer your question, it's not a very hopeful place that we are in as a country. But we don't give up. You guys do what you do. You know, you show up. So, you know, we have to keep at it, keep at it.
quite honestly, it's frustrating. I think Chris will tell you. This has not been an easy journey. I mean, we made it 261 days.
Peter, in that sense, I must say that there's a little bit of good news. Recently, we interviewed a group, and it was very promising very, very hopeful to listen to him. And they seem to be they've had like a They seem to be planning this for some time.
Yeah, but I don't know whether
I'm referring to the
we are
Sentinel.
referring to the same
we are
people.
same here. I mean, they're nice people, Prashant,
Yeah.
are nice, but you see, they have no idea about parliamentary politics. The electorate, you see, I learned this because the LSSP, the Sri Lanka Samasamaj Party, at the height of their power, in the 56 election or something, they had won a lot of seats, a number of seats. So they thought we'll contest all the seats, and they got decimated. This group also thinks they can contest the elections. But on what basis? They're looking for candidates. What kind of politics is that? So they'll take me. I go. I don't owe them anything. I get a seat. What do? I'll give my vote to the guy who comes and gives me the highest offer and says, you come with me. So they are not based on, now you guys have come together on some solid understanding that, there must be community involvement, create concept, some common idea, but not them. So, and also when parliamentary politics, you will see it, because you see when they put forward Mahesh for the presidential candidate, the Sarvo, they also got involved. So I asked the head of Sarvo, I said, how many votes do you think he'll get? He said 1 million. I said, you are serious? Yeah, at least. I said, he won't get 100,000. He got 40,000. JVP, huh? 59. JVP. I said, JVP, how? I said, Laksa Tunak kamenne. How much did the JVP get? The last one.
JVP some 300,000.
Because I've been long enough in this game to know how parliamentary politics works. And small point, just a brief point. If you are putting forward a candidate in Balapitiya, whom do you put? What is the criteria? What is the main criteria? Balapitiya Sandhira Dhanana. Caste. Salagama. If you don't put a Salagama, you will not get, you can be Marxist, revolutionary, whatever. Salagama meaning, Balapitiya Sandham. Of course. So you see, I mean, this good-heartedness, very good, but they'll get decimated.
I must tell you, so Peter, after we met the Centenary movement, we thought we were very hopeful that with some young.
I met Prashant just before his interview. He called me. Very nice guys, and also the other. No. At least they are trying to, do something. All that they'll come together. But I'm saying, delusional.
So can't we sort of work with a group like that, because they have a organization, work with them and sort of educate them and do what is necessary.
That's the thing. So you have to sit down and figure out what are we going to do. If it's going to be taking part in a parliament election, that's not going to cut it. On what basis? Like I said, what is the alternate economy that you're going to build? That's how you take state power. Not just put some candidates, win some seats, that fellow will join another party. Crucial vote meant they'll come and offer you 200 million. Now, I have come as a Sentinel candidate without any obligation to them. I don't subscribe to the party's views. They are now looking for good people. G.L. Pirish was a good person, no? I mean, professor. Who would have thought he'll end up where he ended up? Apologies for Mahinda. I mean, come on. This is not politics. You see, we are in a crisis. Sorry, Chamil, I'll finish this. We are in a crisis. The crisis calls for an alternate economic model. That's not going to come by forming a party, collecting people. You contest this, you contest this. Nothing inside. I'm even challenging the NPP that has such a solid organizational capacity. I'm saying you don't have a solid economic foundation, costed for, itemized, to say, here is how we will save the economy of this country. You will see, you will be terribly disillusioned, shattered if you have any hopes of a parliamentary.
I think we'll have to put all our faith in Basil Rajapaksa.
Look at the Basil is back. So Peter, but the thing is, we are facing an election this year, maybe possibly two. Sometimes the choices are very binary. I mean, there's no magical unicorn, right? So how do we view choices like that? I mean,
The way I'm doing it, for
because if I can just continue just for a minute, because during the Aragal era, there was hope of revolutionary generational change. We may have been able to get rid of the executive presidency. A movement rose up, engagement politically rose up. That is why we are still in it. We feel keeping people engaged, we have a chance, at least to influence people who might be able to make that swing, because politics is tribal, politics is feudal. That's why the Rajapaksas still will get a certain amount of votes, right? The Pohutu will get a certain amount of votes, and so on. But the bottom line is we will face a binary choice. How do we view a choice like that?
It's a no choice.
Yeah, but
That's the point.
we have to cast a vote, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I wouldn't, but but you see that is our crisis. We have no one. It's the same problem in the UK. It's the same problem in the US in relation to Gaza. Who do they choose? Trump or Biden? Sunak or Starmer? Like George Galloway said, they're both the two cheeks of the same. Actually, used another English word. Four-letter
What
word.
do we do?
That is our crisis. So what we do is what you do, for example, raise consciousness. The one good thing that has come from the Aragalaya, that's what people say, Aragalaya is a failure. I say no. Look at what you all are, at least the first step is create a social consciousness. Why are you all here? Damaris, you have nothing better to do? No, because you have a consciousness that I can't be disengaged. So you are interested in the future of the country. So a social consciousness, be interested. That's a great thing. That's why I commend even the Centenary Group, because they have said, but they may be going on the wrong path. They think there's a shortcut. There's no shortcut to change, particularly when you're facing a crisis. Hard work. You need to bring people together around an ideology, an alternate economic approach. That's not going to be easy. The NPP is not shown itself to have that kind of thing. But if people want to vote for them, good luck. Right. I'm not going out there to canvass against them. I won't do that. Because to get rid of them, but I'm only cautioning people, you will be very quickly disillusioned, because if there is no substance, what are you voting for is the smart question to ask. Not who, why. So sometimes you cast a vote because you want to get rid of this law. Anybody but them, so you cast a vote for them. Not because you have faith in them. So there will be lots of votes cast like that.
To get rid of these people. And people also must be thinking like Gotabaya, everybody expected Gotabaya to do great, no alternative, then it will be the NPP.
That's right. But the real change will come only when people get mobilized. I say we came this close to getting rid of this whole lot, the Bar Association, this close, man. And the Bar Association also said, good technocrats. I'm a little suspicious of technocrats, but people who are free. They come and work for free. No payment for them. And there will be people who will come. Economists who understand farming, who understand agriculture, who understand. And they would have formed a kind of a...
Doctors who understand agriculture?
Doctors, lawyers would have come. And good doctors...
You didn't understand what I...
No, sir.
I was referring to Padani.
I mean, now there are enough people who care about the healthcare system. They would have come for free and have formed a government, and they would have said, you stay in parliament, the people are on the streets, anything we bring in the interest of the people, you will vote for it and get it approved, otherwise you face the wrath of the people. And they nearly faced it, so they were shitting themselves. Instead of which, but we did get rid of a family and a power that was so well entrenched, only because we went out of this parliamentary system, out of the constitutional framework of state, and the people came together. So we have to hope.
But the family is back. So sometimes
They can be back. They can come back later.
Now, especially for groups like us, we've been on the street 100 days consecutively during the Aragalaya, and actually we scaled back on the day the day Ranil became president. That wasn't a decision because of that fact, but it was a decision we had made earlier. Then we became twice a week, but we've kept on fighting. So everything the Aragalaya gained has subsequently been eroded first by the installation of a president, a selected president installation, then a plethora of laws in bad faith to suppress exactly what we are doing. I mean, I think we are the only group that's allowed to still stand, because we look like a typical UNP voter. We are the middle class, upper middle class. And
English speaking, we reach a
if you're
small audience.
Right. If you are USF or if you're a trade union, you get hammered. They try to hammer us too. They send a mob after us and all of that. I mean, to intimidate us. But that opportunity for generational change, I feel movement building, that happened during the Aragalaya has now been eroded completely and on purpose. And now we have to look at sort of incremental change, because I don't see a movement which and more and more people getting engaged, even slowly, or with groups like us talking to them. Possibly we have other groups building, like Citizens Collective. There are other groups. There are people well-intentioned that are working towards this. But ultimately, we have to face the fact that it has to be an election. I mean, is the strategy, okay, let's at least try to get rid of the worst of the worst, and continue to demand reform and change that would actually bring about some kind of, maybe at least electoral reform, bring better people into politics, demand reform from the parties themselves, the selection of candidates, or things
Better
like that.
people.
I mean,
you see, this is where you also have to be careful. This whole narrative is a bit, you have to question yourself on this narrative. Bring better people. Better for whom? Now I give you the example of GLPDs. I always take that. I mean, you would have found a better person than him in the better, educated, professor of law, incorruptible. He doesn't need the money. Where did he end up? He will support the 70th, he'll draft the 18th Amendment, he'll support the 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 24th. So, what are the good people? So, these good people, better people, it's empty. What do you stand for? What do you stand for? So, be careful, but do what you're doing. Like you said, incremental changes will, but the great thing is if you can create consciousness. That is why if today there's a bill, you would come and protest. I mean, you guys show up at Liberty Plaza, no? 10 people, okay. But we are there.
yeah, that's Tassie's
I know. So you're there. Even on Gaza, I mean, we are not spoken about it. I mean, there's a genocide going on. And what are we talking about? I said, children are being slaughtered. And now we are trying to, I just spoke to you, Tassie. I said, now there's a Palestine group. We are chit-chatting, we are sharing information, inundating with information. But I said, let's mobilize. This mobilization.
But they are building a school now in Gaza.
No, very good. That is
Yes,
one.
schools are shutting down in Sri
But I'm
Lanka,
saying
but
if we
they
can mobilize for a day of action. Now I'll give you an example of what we did in the 70s when there was an emergency. There was severe repression under Sirimava and the United Front government. So we couldn't step out. You'll be taken in prison. They had just smashed the JVP. In 1975 or 76, there was an International Day of Solidarity with the people of Chile, because Allende had been overthrown by Pinochet. And all the slogans were relevant to Sri Lanka. Stop repressive laws, release political prisoners. Sri Lankan government, fortunately, had said, we support the International Day of Solidarity with Chile. I said, great. So, guerrilla campaign. We came out and said, we are talking about Chile. Release political prisoners. Do away with repressive laws. End the emergency. In Chile. So you see, you can do something like that. So you see, even on Gaza, you can get people, just telling us, we can just 10 people can come. But what if we 10 people plan, mobilize for one day of action? Now, last year, we were going to do an international day of sovereignty to counter the government's Independence Day, 75th year. Independence Day, we were to say day of sovereignty, very different. We were to have little items, talk, Sinhala, Tamil. At the Vyarama Devi, we were going to put up small stages in the sitting area. Artists came, we collected pieces to perform. Then sadly, the artists pulled out, meaning they went to do their work, their plays and all that. Nobody said, don't do ever, no go to make. But you see, we can still try to do something. 1,000 people we can bring to Vyarama once again, and Gaza separately. But on one issue, then we can once again sow the seeds. So, in conclusion, I congratulate you guys on learning something from that. Staying the way. It's not easy to do the kind of work you do, because you're not getting any glory for yourself. And thank you, ladies. You're an inspiration. Yeah. But keep doing. We'll take information, we share this, we create, and hopefully we can create, even if the NPP or whoever comes to power, the people will hold them accountable. We'll ask them questions, we'll bring proposals to them. The fishing community can say, you won, but what are you going to do about the Indian boats? What are you going to do about the plantation? Whatever. So that kind of pressure from outside must be sustained. so that you can have this government answerable to create a better future for our people and for our country.
Thank you so much, Peter. In fact, I hear the disillusionment in your voice about the squandered opportunity that the Aragalaya presented. I think we all have that same sort of feeling, and in a certain way, we are disappointed that the people are not trying to recapture that.
It won't happen.
We're trying to spark-
Movements rise and fall. But for me, the greatest positive thing is that there is a greater consciousness among the people. A number of us wouldn't have been involved in issues. That's why online bill, people come out. Some years ago, nobody would have been interested. Online bill, apata wadak nahi aise. So now, Kalia's issue, central bank salary matter. You see, so we keep it on the agenda so that they are forced to talk about it in Parliament and take a stand on it. That's what happens, So don't underestimate what you are doing.
Exactly.
But don't put
even
all
when
your
the
hopes.
cardinal got, some goons came to the bishop's house, entire Nigambo came out. I mean, people are now aware. I mean, they are like even their own people.
There is. It's all there. It all just needs.
No, I think in a robust democracy, activism has a space. We are not trying to do the job of a government or the opposition or NGOs or institutions. We are here to
Whoever is there will keep you on your toes.
Keep you on your toes.
That's
Hold
right.
people's feet to the fire, because we need to get this people off this sycophant kind of mindset, right? Like voting for someone, worshipping people. I mean, Ranil is building exactly that kind of like a following right now. You're almost seeing like a cult-like following Ranilists, who would whitewash any act and so on. And they're the ones who are generally challenging us on a regular basis.
I must give credit where it's due. Unofficial UNP, that there's a Twitter thing that is running amok. But then when I bought this online safety bill thing, that he spoke up against it and said, that's a very bad bill.
Well, even a broken clock is right twice a day. Chiranta, I wouldn't give it that much credit. But
I'm having a bit of a dilemma now. Before meeting Peter, I was wondering whether to vote for the SJB or for the NPP.
your conscience.
No, but after listening to Peter, I think I might go and vote for Ranil Wickremesinghe finally.
How did I do that? We better not end on that.
I think we better end up.
I'm saying out with that lot, and we'll build a better future. Somebody will get a vote, your vote.
You've been very, very generous with your time. Leisha will not forgive me if I don't read her quotes for the week. So
She's normally here. We miss her today.
one of our members picks 2 quotes to read every week to end the program. So basically, her 2 quotes, one from Edward Snowden and one from Julian Assange, 2 dissidents. Your rights matter because you never know when you're gonna need them. That's from Edward Snowden. Right now, I think he's a dissident right now, right? Yes. And Julian Assange as well, who said one of the best ways to achieve justice is to expose injustice. There you go. And I think absolutely. So thank you, Leisha, and we miss you. Hope to see you here next week. So Peter, thank you so much. Generous with your time, and very interesting to talk to you. You're welcome back anytime. Maybe we'll let you come and take over one day. GGY take over. We'll bring a few people and let you
work together.
Yeah, why not?
You know what I mean? Like I think that might add a dimension to what we're doing. So I think that's a wrap from day 261. Thank you so much. Thank you, Peter. Thank you to the gang, Anu CK, and everybody else who's there. And we're back to our usual street corner on Sunday for day 262. And hopefully we'll have TISL next week to discuss some of the bills, asset declarations, and a whole bunch of other topics. But for today, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And
Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Peter. And that's a wrap from Good Governance Yaya today. Thanks.